Rant over.
No, it's a good rant. What's going to happen with the dollar?
So ever since we went off the gold standard under Nixon, I think that was 73, people have been singing about the death of the dollar. And when inflation happened in the 70s, we were in this Malthusian crisis where by 1981, it would cost $1 million to get a cup of coffee. And, it was all going to be the Weimar Republic. And the Arabs were going to own the world and blah, 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 blah. And everyone should buy silver and gold now. I am old enough to remember that. And my dad actually fell for some of that. Bought all the silver and, and gold and silver just trolled along for 30, 40 years. And so people have been predicting the death of the dollar for an extremely long time. Now, just because something hasn't happened yet and it's been predicted over time, that doesn't mean it's not actually going to happen this time. You can't put it on your blinders. Things do change by definition. The dollar, every fiat currency is an artificial contract that we all choose to believe and has the power of law and we choose to believe it. I mean, it has the power of law because it's generally a useful idea.
Yeah.
Right. You need to have a way of keeping account and exchanging value and paying people and all that stuff. You need a metric somehow. You can't trade eggs for arrowheads every time you want to do business. You can't barter every single time. So you need money. And fiat is potentially a useful source of money if the monetary and fiscal policy behind it is reliable.
Yes.
But what inevitably happens over time is it's not reliable. Okay, there's no 100-year-old currency that's held its value over time, because what inevitably happens is that we steal from the future to buy political consensus in the present.
That's it.
Because the people who aren't born yet don't have a vote. And you gotta stay in office, because if you can't stay in office, you can't do those good other things. So even independent banks, that are supposed to be above this all, eventually let the value of their currency slide over time through inflation. And the less independent they are, or the worse monetary policy you have, or the worse fiscal policy you have, the more accelerated this process is. What the U.S. has done since we went up the gold standard is we went from a pretty restrained monetary policy and restrained fiscal policy to complete insanity. And that's what happens when you don't have something tied to another asset like gold. The temptation eventually takes over. Yeah. And the U.S. it's inevitable. And the U.S. does not have economic activity that matches its dollar output right now. And we're using all these accounting games and all of this laughable stuff, like controlling the fact that that oil is mostly priced in the dollar and people are mostly trading in the dollar. We're using all this. We're using the fact that the U.S. is relatively secure compared to the rest of the world. It's just buying time.
Absolutely.
And China and Russia and other revisionist countries. It used to be that Russia was like, we're going to get you the dollar. The U.S. is going to break up, the dollar's going to crash. Well, of course they said that, because they're politically motivated to say that. If you look at Russia, it's a basket case. But China was playing the long game because they have so many of their assets in dollars. They were trying to gently wean off the dollar, but things are accelerated now because they've seen the dollar weaponized because of the war, Russia's invasion of Ukraine. They're seeing how the wire system and the transfer system is under the control of the U.S. They're seeing that it provides a scary political advantage to the U.S. So all these countries, even ones that aren't necessarily anti-U.S. like India is a potential friend of the U.S. or an actual friend, is tired of this. They don't want this weird country with this weird politics and it's people that don't work and riots on the street determining its fiscal policy. So it's going to happen slowly. Things happen slowly and then they happen all at once. That's what's going to happen in the dollar. They can get off slowly and then all at once. And when it happens all at once, it's going to be too late.